we had 23 people on the meeting before, and now we have only 14. So we'll give them just a second to log back in. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay, we're at 18. So let's just do 1 or 2 more minutes. And while we're doing that, I'll see if I can share my screen. Now I have to remember how I had these. Okay, we're just gonna figure it out as we go. Okay, I think we are just about ready to go. Can everyone hear me? Is everyone back on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's try this again. Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you for being here at the meeting. We are going to do a brief recap of, as always, the finances from yesterday's market. This meeting is a little bit different. I really like to focus on the business part of the market on Sunday mornings when we're in the circle, and during other times, we focus on all aspects of it, the community aspect and things like that. But because of what's happening as far as we're being, requested for our budget, we're talking about, is the market sustainable to various organizations and entities. So we're going to focus on the business part of the meeting tonight. I'm not, other than right now, going to mention MRT or vendors who are not in alignment with us and are not paying. Billion will host the second half of the meeting where those kind of discussions will take place. My time is just limited tonight because I do need to work on the budgets and all of the things that we need to submit to the city in hopes of getting some kind of fees waived or getting some kind of financial assistance. So please understand, it's not that I don't want to hear everything that everyone has to say, but again, I'm just under a schedule to get in the documents that we need so that we can try to get from under some of these fees and or get assistance. Okay, so the first thing is our agenda. The first thing we'll do is let's talk business, and that's kind of what I just went over right now. Second is show me the money. We'll go over the revenues from yesterday, and I'll show you the reports that we received from Square. We've switched over our invoicing system to Square because it's a lot more comprehensive in the info that it shares with us and how it tracks the vendor payments, donations, sales of t-shirts and things like that. Next thing on the agenda is called Not As Scary As I Heard. I was having a meeting with someone regarding the market. I was having a meeting yesterday with someone regarding the market. And as I mentioned in Sunday's circle meeting, there's an idea of being able to formally structure the market as a cooperative so that all participating vendors can have ownership interest. And it's funny because I've never met the lady that I was speaking with before and had no idea, how much she did or did not know about Leimert Park Village and what goes on in the village. And at the end of the meeting, she goes, "Oh, you're not as scary as I heard." So I'd like to address some of the issues of just some of the issues that would make people go out and present an image that I'm a very scary person, because I'm actually not. The next thing is entitled, I Have an Idea. There are a lot of ideas that are presented to the organizers, and a lot of them are good ideas. The issues that we've been having is that some of the ideas are things that we've already tried and or implemented. So in bringing forth the idea, we're hoping that people will start to, number one, ask questions to see if the idea has already been implemented. Number two, if there is a suggestion for a specific idea, you know, lay it out for us in actionable plan, actionable steps. And then number three, be able to help follow up on that. And then the last thing that we have is how organized are we? And we get a lot of different questions about the organizational structure and what we can and cannot do based on how we're structured. So those are all the things that we'll go over this evening. The slides are out of order because of my computer issue, so I think they might be backwards actually. So I already went over the first slide, meeting objectives and rules. And again, just reiterating that the goal of tonight's meeting is to address some of the internal concerns and to formulate some actionable solutions. And again, Billion can speak to the MRT issues and any other community related issues after we discuss the other things on the agenda first. So the first thing is show me the money. So again, we've switched over our invoicing system to Square. They give a lot more reports, and the reports break things down in details. So yesterday from the market and vendor, we collected a total of $1,720. On here, you'll see that it says discount and comps, and there's a credit for $10. It's not really a discount, but one of the vendors, we sent an invoice for a regular fee, and they had not set up for 2 weeks in a row. So instead of paying $30, we gave them a discount, and they paid the $20 for the 2 weeks of no setup fee. In the detail portion of the report, it shows that out of the $1,720 that we collected, 23 people paid cash, 10 people paid by card. And what that means is they use the link in the invoice that we send out, and they made their payment through there. And then we have other times 24. What other means in this case is they paid through Cash App. And when we receive payments through Square, they do take a percentage of the payment as a processing fee. So based on the people who paid out of their card, Square took $11.27, which meant our net total was $1,708. Does anyone have any questions about that so far? And when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see if you raise your hand. So please just unmute yourself if you have a question and jump in. Billion has a question.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Someone typed Billion in the chat, so I thought you had a question. Okay, so then the next thing is not as scary as I heard. So again, the comment from the person I was speaking with was a little, not even a little, it was a lot off-putting because again, someone from outside of the village, to be 100% honest, a white lady from outside of the village who's looking to try to, again, help structure so we can make this a co-op. As I mentioned in the Sunday meeting, looking to see if there is ways to help us get grants or funding through some organizations that she's attached to. So with that being said, I'm sharing with you tonight some of the messages that I receive in our DMs and that I receive in the email. And I'm hoping to illustrate that we are receptive to the suggestions of the vendors. So again, some suggestions have already been implemented. Oftentimes, a lot of the information that is shared, the person making these type of comments, they have not attended the meetings. They're not paying attention to the communication that goes out. And then since we're talking about communication that goes out, we have purchased Constant Contact, which is an email system, and we have input everyone's name into the contact. So we send out email blasts regularly. We purchased a bulk texting system. So whatever information that the vendors have provided to us as far as phone number and email address, we are sending information out through those sources. So if you're saying that you're not receiving the information, then I'm going to ask you to send us an email tonight verifying the information or giving us your correct information so that we can update our vendor directory, because we are sending out information to everyone we have in our vendor directory based on the information that has been provided. In addition to direct communication, we also post a lot of information on both Instagram and Facebook. Whatever we post on Instagram automatically feeds over to Facebook. So again, if someone is saying that they're not getting information, I would just have to say it's either you're not providing us with correct information or you're not tapping into all of the sources where we share information. And then in addition to these Monday meetings, we have the Sunday morning meetings. So from our perspective, we're making very, very concentrated efforts to disseminate information to the vendors. I don't know how else we can communicate to the vendors so that all vendors receive the information with hopes of all of us being in alignment or having conversation to get us in alignment. If there's anyone who has suggestions for other means that we could share information with the vendors, then please put a message in the chat box tonight. The meeting is recorded, so we do get to see all of the messages that are in the chat box. If you don't want to put it in the chat box, then please send an email. And then speaking of email, we put in our Instagram, please no DMs, because it's very time consuming and labor intensive for Miranda and myself to go through both the DMs and the emails and the text messages. So we prefer to have everything come in through email. If for any reason you absolutely cannot send an email, then we ask that you please text either Miranda or myself, but please, 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 if at all possible, do not DM. So this is a DM that I received, and you can see that it says reply to your story. So every morning, what we try to do is we try to go through all through our feed. Everyone that we follow all of the vendors. If you're a vendor and you follow us and we know that you have an Instagram page, then we will follow you back. We go through our feed, and when vendors have posted information from Sunday, then we share that in our stories. So we have several vendors who post thank you to the customers that supported them. We have several vendors that prior to Sunday, they start doing announcements that they're going to be in Lamert on Sunday. We have a lot of vendors who send a lot of content. So again, this one I had shared a post in our stories from one of the vendors, and another vendor sent this. I see a lot of stuff on this page, but no real vendors. Can we get some shine on a place that is bringing money in? We make the market, so show who is all there. If y'all need help, if you need help, I'll help. Okay, so when I saw this, my immediate thought was, if you are willing to help, then maybe the communication could have been different. Instead of demeaning the vendor that was in the story, maybe just say, we'd like to see some other things, and if you need help with your social media, we can do that. So here was my response to this DM. Happy Monday. Always want to start on a personal, positive note. And we said all of our vendors are real vendors. We do feature vendors. Please see the highlights called vendors. After we share things in the stories, then we put them in the highlights so that people visiting our page can always go back and reference. So we posted various vendors with their products, booths, and Instagram information. Explaining, to the person who sent the DM exactly what we do. Each Monday, we add vendor posts to our stories when the vendors post about Lamert and or Sundays. Again, the goal of the Village Vendors Association is to uplift the vendors that are in the village, uplift the vendors that are part of the marketplace. We get DMs for people asking us to share other events that have nothing to do with Leimert Park, things that are in Oakland, things that are in other states. The focus and the goal of our page is exactly like it says, the Leimert Park Village Vendors. Then I went on to say, vendors need to tag us, use hashtags that reference Leimert Park, the African Marketplace and Drum Circle, or add Leimert Park as the location. We don't go through all 100 plus vendors to see if they have pages. The vendor should follow us and we will follow back. And it's not that we don't want to go through all of the 100 vendors. I mean, realistically, if we tried to, it probably wouldn't take that much time. But some people have Instagram handles that have nothing to do with their business. Some have Instagram handles that are nowhere close to their names. So the question is, how do we find you? If you don't let us know that you're out there and you exist, how do we find you? Then I ended the conversation, excuse the scrolling, ended the conversation by saying, when vendors have sent us pictures of their products with a request to share it, we generally do. If you have a product you'd like us to share, please send it. So that was my response. All of these are screenshots from the DM conversation. The person who sent the initial DM never responded, never followed up, and never sent us a picture of their product to share. So if people come back and say, oh, well, I asked the Vendors Association, Jennifer and Miranda, to share my post and they didn't, please understand, if your post is related to the African Marketplace or Leimert Park Village or an event, even if the event is not on a Sunday, but it's directly related to Leimert Park Village, then we will absolutely share it. We don't have a list of favorite vendors or regular vendors or anything else that puts inequality in the way that the information is shared. Again, if you have a post, it's related to Leimert Park, it's related to the African Marketplace, and you're one of our vendors, then we will absolutely share it. Before I go on to the next part, are there any questions about any of that?
Okay. Let me, real quick, I just want to say, it's not a question, I just want to say that my email for some reason is down, so I'm not receiving an email. I haven't received anything for like the last maybe 2.5 weeks. Okay. So if there's, I mean, I don't want to add to your, work or anything. I know you said that you purchased where a lot of the information goes out, but right now I'm only receiving everything via text, and you guys have my number. So, or even, I don't mind a DM on Instagram. I think you guys are following me. But I just want to let you know that if there's anything pertinent that you sent out via email, I may not have received it.
Okay, do you have an updated email address or a correct email address, or it's just something with your system?
It's just something with the system. I didn't even know. I just thought that I hadn't received anything. But I tried to send myself something from or had someone else send me something from another email, and they got an immediate, like, automatic response that I'm not receiving messages. And I don't know why, because I didn't set anything up. So I have to call Google, and get it taken care of. I just found out today, so I'll be looking into that sometime this week.
Okay, if you could leave a message in the chat, Lonnie, so that I don't forget, because we do print out the chat. I'll print it out tomorrow, and anything that needs to be followed up. I saw some people said, can you email me a list of events and things like that? So please put it in the chat as a reminder for me, and then we'll follow up on it tomorrow.
Okay, so just my phone number is fine though. I got the update on for this today.
Okay, all right, thanks. Let's see, we did the money, we did show me the money. Not as scary, not as scary. I'm sorry, these slides are all out of order. There was an email that I wanted to share as well and here's the other thing. Here's another DM that I got. It says that again, talking about our Instagram, I don't see a lot of people on there, but we can talk about all of that on the weekend. I was listening to the Zoom meeting last night, and I have questions. See you this weekend. Thanks. And they wanted to talk Sunday Sunday during the market. My response was, there's always so much happening on Sundays. It's hard to talk. Please. And this was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday that the message came in. There's always so much happening on Sunday. It's hard to talk. Please call me. And I put my phone number. At this point, everybody, you know, in the village should have my phone number, have access to someone who has my phone number. We have it posted at the info booth on Sundays. It's with the security guards at the barriers. And then I share it, you know, during every meeting. So again, I feel like I'm doing as much as possible to be able to be reachable. And I don't know what else I can do. So if someone, you know, is saying, well, Jennifer doesn't respond, if it's a thing like we're trying to talk on Sunday, it's hard to talk on Sunday. There are a lot of things happening. There's a drum circle, there's music, there's questions from people, there's visitors coming up to the info booth. But again, I'm always, well, I won't say always, I'm available by phone anytime on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. After Monday, I do try to stop with the market business because I have my real estate business and I have my legal assistant business. Right now, I have an escrow that's supposed to close on Friday. So starting tomorrow, all of my energy is going to be directed towards that until Friday. And then that's when my market time starts again. So if you need to reach me, you know, on days other than Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, then please email me. I always try to return the emails within 24 hours. Is there any questions about that? Okay, the next thing that I wanted to share was an email that we received from someone, and we're talking about receiving grants and different things like that. And the person was very adamant, and I don't know how else to phrase it, in insisting that, you know, we follow their ideas as far as grant opportunities are concerned. And what they did was send me a list of foundations, everything from the LeBron James Foundation to the Target Good Neighbors Foundation to, it was like a list of maybe 20 or so grant links to foundations, but there was no direct link to the grant. Oftentimes there are specific requirements that organizations have to meet in order to receive grants. For example, LeBron James grant focuses on education in his home state of Ohio. So then if I were just to click on that link, I'd have to figure out, you know, how can we shape what we do to try to fit into a grant request, or figure out, you know, how to even make them consider us for a grant, because places like that get hit up for grants all the time. And that's usually why they post what their specific requirements are. So when I emailed that back to the person who sent this, in my response, you can see one of the main things that I said is, even though you provided a comprehensive list of potential donors and solution, there's a process required to reach out to the donors, request their grant eligibility guidelines, and then to complete the grant request package. To complete the package takes, and assemble the supporting documentation takes a lot of time and work. We need more volunteers to assist with the effort. Are you available? And after I sent this, I did not get any further response from the person. So again, I would like to address and dispel the myth that the organizers are not open to the solutions that are being presented. It's just a matter of sometimes, again, we've already approached that or thought about it, tried it, or we simply need volunteers to help follow up with the suggestions that people have. And so what I asked is, you know, we have 2 other vendors who are talking to professional grant writers. And once the grant writers say that they're willing to work with us, it would be great if we could just go back and give them all of the grant packages application packages and eligibility guidelines that this particular person, we were asking if they could, you know, get that information together. It makes it easier for us because we have no budget. We have no budget to pay a professional grant writer. So when we do have the opportunity to work with grant writers that will work with us for free up front and take a percentage of the grant on the back end, then we want to be able to get them started as soon as possible and have them do the least amount of work that they have to do just to find out what the grant is about, if that makes sense. Does anyone have questions about that? Questions, thoughts, suggestions, comments? Okay. So then the next item is that, and this kind of came up yesterday in speaking with a food vendor about their license requirements. I don't know everything. I absolutely do not know everything. I don't pretend to know everything, but what I will do is research everything. So when we're bringing information to the vendors about how to get a specific type of license or what's required for certain things, we have reached out to the issuing organizations and we have asked for guidance. So Nakia, our market manager, spent a lot of time with the supervisor over at the health department. And you could see the emails that he sent. Not only did he put his information in there, he copied other people in his office that were available to answer questions for us. And when I tell you, Nakia and I have driven 2, maybe 3 times out to the public health department, it's all the way in Irwindale, like an hour away from LA. We've gone out there, we've sat, we've talked with them, we've emailed them, we call them all the time. So it's a little bit frustrating when we're speaking to vendors and we're saying to the vendor, okay, the health department has said that they require A, B, and C. And then the vendor continues to say, well, I'm not providing that because you don't need it, or that's not what somebody else told me. In certain situations, we have even taken copies of this email or the documents that are provided from the health department and shared them with the vendors, and we're still getting pushback. So again, I'm open to suggestions on how to better facilitate conversations so that we don't get the pushback, because we have so much coming at us so fast and so consistently that our time and our efforts could be better used just moving through the process, and then in the areas where we know the process and we can just get through it, as opposed to having to spend time going through the back and forth and then not being able to focus our efforts in the areas where they're most needed. Do we have any comments or questions, suggestions at that point? No one?
No questions. Just I think it's coincidentally random that of all people, because I'm fairly new. I'm a fairly new vendor. I've only been out there this year. It hasn't even been a year yet that I've been vending with Lamert. And I've said before in the Sunday morning meetings, I know someone who will help with, like she's online, so you don't have to drive to her office because she's a distance away from a lot of people, but she will help with all the forms and documents. Anyway, long story short, someone asked me yesterday, and I did ask, I said, are you from the health department or from any specific department? And she was just insistent that I showed her information. But anyway, she asked for my permit to vend. She was like, do you have your permit to vend out here? And I said, well, which permit? And she said, well, the permit you need to be able to be vending out here. And I said, well, I have various permits. Which one specifically are you asking about? And she was asking about my seller's permit. She was asking about my health food permit because I'm serving food. I had both. So I showed both and she said, thank you. And then she purchased and then she walked away. But I just thought that it was strangely coincidental that of all people, people have been vending out there for years and I'm the one that got axed. And I spoke to another vendor about it. Like I said, that's crazy, but she asked me for my permit before she purchased anything. And even then after, she still kind of like peeped around my booth a little bit. So I don't know if she was doing, it's Sunday, so I don't know if she was doing like, if she works in the health food department and she did like a personal inspection, or if she was really doing an inspection. I don't know. She didn't flash a badge or anything, but I feel like now that the Leimert Park vendors and the African Marketplace and Drum Circle is getting attention, where like it's on the radar, not only in the area of being where they want to take over, but we're fighting back, right? So it's creating noise, and so attention that wasn't there before is now coming out. So I think that the fact that I don't know if it applies to what you were talking about just now, but just the fact that you were mentioning permits and licensing, I think a lot of people might want to reconsider not having the documents they need.
Right. And thank you for sharing that. And that's really important that you shared it. I don't know if the vegan station is on the call tonight, but he also shared a video, and my point in saying this is that maybe the health department is just inspecting more people now, because he parks his truck to vend also on Western Manchester. He and Not Your Taco, some people may be familiar with that food truck, but they said they've been parking there, and randomly on the 25th, a health department vehicle just pulled up and inspected both of them. Now, luckily they were prepared and they had all of their things in order, and they both received an A, but I don't know why the health department is doing more inspections. Maybe it's in response to the shutdown of Avenue 26. You know, we're a society of people that always says, well, somebody else did it. So maybe because the vendors in Avenue 26 have gotten shut down in mass, maybe they're saying, well, why aren't you pressing the vendors over here or the food trucks over there? Or, you know, whatever the case may be. So I don't know the reason, but it does seem like there's increase in health department inspections. And we're doing all that we can to help. So I have a follow-up scheduled with Vegas Garden, Amina. I spoke with Thought You Knew Q yesterday. They gave me the money for their fees and gave me all their paperwork. So I will be that out tomorrow morning to the health department. But right now, I believe we have 5, maybe 6 vendors who've gotten their health department permits since we started in April. We are still working on getting the 3 compartment sinks. That's one area that the market overall needs to find a solution for as soon as possible, because technically we're not 100% in compliance without those sinks. So it's a work in progress. But again, because there's so many things like the health department coming out, like the things that the market still needs, and like our few vendors that still need permits. Oh, we're trying to get commercial kitchens for some of the vendors that do prepackaged food. We have not been able to find an answer to the commercial kitchen. So again, that takes up a lot of our time, Monday through Friday, trying to find solutions for those kind of things. So it just helps us facilitate all of this if the vendors will work with us. And here's the thing, we're not the only resource to get a permit through the health department. If you don't believe me in what I'm saying, then check out a resource like Lonnie mentioned. Call the health department directly. Go to the work source centers, go to Vermont Slauson Development, go to the Urban League, go to Inclusive Action. All of these agencies have offices and programs to assist street vendors in getting the necessary permits. We will provide you with all of the information that you need from the market for your permit. So again, if you prefer not to work with me, us, whatever the case may be, I'm not offended at all. I'm just hoping that everyone who needs a health permit gets their health permit so that the entire market is not in danger because 1 or 2 of our vendors don't have permits. Do we have any other comments or questions or concerns regarding health permits? Okay.
No, I just was going to say though, we talk a lot about the health food, but she also looked at my seller's permit. So vendors that are not serving food, it's not like, oh, well, I don't serve food, so I don't have to worry about that. They're looking for seller's permits too, and seller permits are free. You can get those online from your local civic center. So or you can go directly to the office if they're open, but seller permits are free, and it really helps. If nothing else, at least you have one document that you can say you're working on the rest.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. And for our vendors who worked with us between last October and now, if you have the Bureau of Street Services street vendor permit, then you should have a seller's permit and a City of Los Angeles tax registration certificate, because those are the two documents that you need in order to get the street vendor's permit. We worked extensively with vendors in the village, those who wanted to. We did a pop-up session at the Lion. We did another pop-up session at not Hot and Cool Soul Folks. And then for people who couldn't attend on those days, I did a couple of Zoom sessions with people where we did those applications online, and we got those applications. And again, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I get that. I understand that. But if you don't want to work with me to get these documents, then please, again, reach out to Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation, LA Urban League, the WorkSource Center. There's a WorkSource Center right on Crenshaw and 28th. I don't know if they're reopened because of COVID, but you could Google their information and call them to see if they're open. There's a WorkSource Center in Inglewood on Crenshaw, right over by KGLH. The WorkSource Centers are all over. They can help you get your seller's permit and your tax registration certificate. If you go to the Bureau of Street Services website, they actually have links to YouTube tutorials that will also tell you how to get your seller's permit and your tax registration certificate. So again, there's a big pushback against street vending all throughout the city of Los Angeles. Street vending, when it's in large groups like Avenue 26, like the Guatemalan market, and like our African marketplace, it pushes back against gentrification in the area. So the city council motion that they're saying is about addressing homelessness. You can't set up on a sidewalk. You can't have personal property on a sidewalk. You can't sit on a sidewalk. You can't do all of these different things. You know, Billion looked into it, and a lot of the measures that are part of a lot of the items that are part of this motion can be applied to street vendors as well. So between the city motions and the health department doing, more inspections and more pop-ups, we can see that there is an effort to push out street vending all over the city of Los Angeles, not just in Leimert Park. So I see in the chat that people are volunteering to help each other get the permits and things like that. Thank you for the people who are stepping up to do that. Again, we will go through the chat tomorrow. And if it's okay with the people who have put their information in the chat, we will also send your information out through a mass email so that all of the vendors have access to it, and you guys can connect and work on getting the permits, helping each other get the permits. And is there any additional questions about the permits, the health permits or the street vendor permits?
And I have a question.
Yes.
The people that are the health department that don't have their license for the food in the market, and they have not gotten those permits yet. And I think I heard you say that could be a situation where we can lose our permit. Are you giving deadlines to when that sort of thing should happen for us to be in compliance? How long are they going to allow to do this without being in compliance?
So that's a great question. We have not set a deadline, a certain date or time that people have to do it. But again, we're actively working with people. Like I said, Thought You Knew Q should have I'll FedEx their info to the health department tomorrow. So they should have their permit by the end of the week, the beginning of next week, but we'll at least have documentation that shows they put in the application. Baba's Vegan, that's another application that will be FedEx tomorrow. So again, it's been taking less than a week. Once we FedEx the info to the health department, it's been taking less than a week for them to issue the permits. And I believe that covers all but one or two of our on-site vendors. I'll be working with them to get their application and their fees in by the end of this week. So we're very much proactively working with everyone to get them done. And fortunately, it's only this process for the food vendors. We have maybe 20 food vendors, and we've got a good headway on getting the ones that are out there, their permits. So no, we haven't given a deadline, but we're working as quickly as possible to get everyone in compliance. Nadia has her hand up. And Nadia has her permit, her health permit.
Yes, I have everything, thank God. But my question is, what are we going, not we, but what is the organization going to do for the people that push back against the Mark Park Vendor Village that sells food and or drink?
As in individual vendor?
Yeah, individual vendors that don't necessarily want to be a part of it, but still come out on Sundays and they don't have permits.
Okay, that's a hard answer because again, I said, we just want to talk about the business aspects, but going back to the community aspects, that was one of the things that was important, is that we don't push anyone out. But the reality of it is that we're trying to do everything possible to make it feasible for people to get their permits. We have, even beyond the food permits, we have had people donate money, and we did a lottery, help people get their street vendor permits. We've had people donate money to help one or two of our food vendors get their health permits. So we're doing everything that we can. Now, in order to get the health permit, one of the things that has to be submitted is a letter from the organizers of the event saying, yes, this person has our permission to participate in this event. The health department has a list of all of our vendors that we sent that letter for, and they match it up to the applications that come in. So to answer your question, I don't know what will happen to those vendors. Like, let's say the health department comes out and they say, okay, well, we have, all of your vendors, they all have permits, but you have this one person here who does not have permits. Honestly, Nadia, I don't know what the answer will be for them, because from the compliance side, my response is, well, we tried to get them in compliance and they did not want to come along. So that's on them. But on the community side, my response is, we're out here trying to help everyone and to hold space. So do we really throw them under the bus like that? I don't know the answer. So that's something that, will be a conversation among vendors.
Jen, I have another question. This is DHP.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that when we're vending on Sundays, there are a lot of vendors, a lot of people that come through and sell their product. Are you setting up anything in place where these people that drive through, walk through, selling products have to pay? Or is that something that's just allowed?
So here's, again, the question of business compliance versus community. So we have what we call visiting vendors. So last week, for yesterday, we had 5 of our regular vendors send us a notice saying, hey, we're doing other things this weekend. We're not going to set up. So based on that, we went onto the waiting list and we reached out to people, and we got 5 people who said, okay, I want to set up. Those people paid a fee, $50 each, a visiting vendor fee. Anybody who's a visiting vendor pays $50, not $30. So for those people, to answer your question, yes, they did pay. Now, here's the other part. There are people who walk through with coolers and they're selling products, they're selling whatever it is they're selling. On a couple of occasions, we've approached those people and said, you know, hey, you can't be here. We've gotten pushback, even to the point where someone called Billion a week after it, and they were like, you know, hey, what's up with you guys telling people they can't come into Leimert, you know, and it creates a different kind of issue. So again, the business versus community perspective, we have not found an answer for that, because yes, we can tell the people they don't come, they come because they're not officially part of the market. But if we start physically trying to remove people, then that leads to situations where people become aggressive, people become violent. We have to call security, we have to call the police. And then, you know, it gets around the village that, you know, hey, I'm not being treated right. So then that brings other people ready to be aggressive. One weekend, we asked a pop-up woman, you know, we explained to her, you cannot set up here. She was set up in someone else's space and she was not on our list. She went on Instagram Live and she said, hey, they're throwing Black folks out of Leimert Park. So how do we handle that? How do we counter that?
Well, I think that, you know, I understand that it's something that you can't control, but I think that someone would need to have a conversation with them saying, you know, we're trying to be helpful in communicating. You know, if you want to sell your ware, at least give us a donation, because they are benefiting from the vendors that are there because we buy from them. So if we're spending our money to them, they should be able to at least give a donation back to the organization.
I get that. I understand that. I'm all about reciprocity as well. But here's the question that came up in the circle yesterday morning. You know, what if you only make $84? I think is the number that was given. Can you really afford to give someone a donation? You know, everyone's situation is different. We're trying to be mindful of that. In certain ways, it does not seem fair to the vendors who do pay. But again, there is no solid way to address that. My personal beliefs are the universe always balances itself out. So there are situations where I feel like I've had to pay more than my fair share. And then somewhere shortly thereafter, I get a windfall, a bonus, something that I did not expect. So I, you know, to maintain peace within myself, I just believe it'll all be balanced out. We're trying to get grants. We're trying to get, you know, all of these different things that will cover everybody. So I don't have a specific straight answer for you, Diane. I really don't.
Okay, Jen, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think you addressed my question. I'm not talking about our vendors that we have that are in Leimert Park that is on our list. I'm talking about the vendors that roll through that, you know, they bring their product in on their bikes and all of that, and they're selling. Shouldn't someone maybe approach those particular vendors that just say, hey, brother, or hey, sister, I see that you're selling this. Can you just at least give a donation? Because they're making money.
We tried to have that conversation, as a matter of fact, with a young lady who popped up selling CMOS. And the first conversation with her was, you know, sorry, you can't pop up. You have to, you know, be on the list and all of these other things. Then she was like, well, I can pay the visiting vendor fee. And so that's what she told Miranda. Miranda was leaving. So then Miranda texted me, hey, can you go collect the visiting vendor fee? So when I go over to speak to the young woman, she's like, well, I haven't sold anything yet. I haven't made any money. I'll bring it to the booth. And she never brought it. So, I mean, am I really going to hound, harass, and police someone for a donation. Again, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but talking to the people who come through with the coolers and the bikes and things like that has not been successful. And that's the other part of it, not just the people on the coolers and the bikes and things like that. Technically, we're not supposed to have people with dogs in there. We've had conversations about that, and we get a lot of community pushback. The man who comes through on the horses, you know, a horse is an animal. We're not supposed to have animals in a farmer's market. And we've had conversations with him repeatedly, and he still shows up with the horses because I'm a longtime member of the community. I've always done this, and I'm going to keep doing this. So there's really no way for us to enforce saying that that people can't come in. That's just the reality of it.
I know one thing myself. I've stopped a couple of people and asked them to pay, just walking up and down with some coolers and stuff. One guy left. He said, I ain't got no money to pay. I said, well, you need to go.
Thanks.
Well, Jan, what are we paying the security for?
Right.
So the security is a requirement of the permit. The security helps with the barriers. They maintain reports of the incidents. They're there to unarmed security to observe and report. We have them there because that is what the city put as a requirement in our permit. So they've started to loosen that up just a little bit. When the permit first was issued, we were supposed to have 5 security guards. Recently, they've said we can go down to 2 security guards. But the main priority for the security guards is to monitor the barriers so that cars don't come in when they're not supposed to. And it may not sound like a big deal, but we pay the security company for 5 guards. We pay $1,300 a week. If we were to have DOT come out there and enforce the barriers like you see at some events, they charge us $2,700 a week.
So,
okay.
I mean, both parts of it, I don't disagree with anything that's been said or anything like that. I'm just curious as Ms. Harris questions and what she was asking, and Jen, I heard everything you had to say. But could the conversation be started out with like, listen, so everyone that vends here is required to pay, and you know, it's not contingent on whether or not you make money that day, because I sell ice, you know, I sell nostalgia. I sell a cup of ice, and on cold days, I don't make any money, but I'll pay my fee. So, you know, if you're selling sea moss, or if you're selling a cleanse, or if you're selling, you know, whatever you're selling, but you're in motion, you know, you're walking through with a dolly with an igloo strapped to it, and you're selling beverages. But regardless of what you're selling, the vendor fee is not contingent. So could the conversation be, listen, everyone that vends here has to pay beforehand, like it's an upfront payment of such and such dollars. If you're not able to make that payment, unfortunately, we'll have to escort you out. You know what I mean? And you're welcome to return once you're able to make that payment upfront. Is that an approach? And I'm not sure who, because I know you get a lot of suggestions and not a lot of volunteers. So I'm just curious if that's an approach that can be, and that's something that's general, can probably be made to anyone that's in motion, any mobile vendor.
I like that suggestion.
So, okay, here's the reality of the situation. There's a couple of things with that. I hear you, I agree with you. And initially that was the approach that we were trying to take, but a couple of things with that. Number one, if we had started with a plan for a market and we had built the structure and then added the people like Black Flea Market does, like the other organized pop-ups do, then that's a different that's the conversation that you can have. we already have this structure in place. We already have this system. So everyone who comes in needs to follow that system. But what's happened in this particular situation is that's not how it started. We are operating backwards. There are all the people there, the community, and then the structure was thrown on top of the community. So now you have people who are going to push back. Now we have 32 people on this meeting, 32 vendors, 32 business owners on this meeting. So the mindset of the people on this call is that, you know, we're interested in being part of the structure. We're interested in enforcing the structure, and we're interested in complying with the structure. So all of the conversation that we're having right now is kind of like preaching to the choir, because all of the people who are on this call are not the ones pulling coolers through, or not the ones saying, call the police if you want me to leave. So, Billion, I don't know if you want to chime. Billion, can we get some of your thoughts in here?
Yeah, first, I just want to tell everybody, wake up. Y'all looking sleepy like y'all was out there working all day yesterday and passed out halfway on the meeting. But yeah, it's basically what, you know, Jen was just getting to the last point, that again, what we as Africatown have been trying to prevent is those who come to do business getting into conflict with those who are there in the community and have always had access to, you know, going right down the street or around the corner and doing what, you know, they've been doing for most of their life. Again, this is a situation that's been forced on all of us. And like Jen was saying, people on this call, you know, have agreed to play the game as far as it could be played through this way. But there are other people in the community who have decided they're going to push back on every level. And part of having folks like myself and Jen jump out in front to try to block this tsunami that's coming, it's still coming. It pits us against folks who are on either side of what we decide to do. You know, if we decide to do what folks who come to do business are against, then we're looked at from a negative on that point. If we decide to do what people who come to enjoy their community, the community that they live in, if we do what they're against, then we're looked at negative from that. Just since this market began, I've lost a couple folks who are, you know, at one point was super close to. One of them cusses us out every single Sunday morning, you know, without saying any names. I think most folks know who that is, but that's somebody I used to give a ride home to. That's somebody I used to pick up and bring to the market. But because of the challenges that have been forced on us in this, and a lot of folks not being able to discern that is a very intentional strategy to tear us apart as a community, make us decide which way to go. You know, it's presenting a lot of these conflicts and issues. Now, I put in the comments that the idea of approaching them asking for a donation is a great idea, because prior to that idea, the conversation was that we shut them down. And after one sister who, like I was saying, lives right down the street, was approached a couple months ago, a lot of the folks who are not paying, a lot of the folks who are doing things like that are out there pretty much every day. So a couple of days after she was approached, you know, she had spoken to some of the brothers out there, and you know, they came to us like, yo, now we stopping our own folks from coming, but we allowing non-Black folks to come set up and make money over here. So again, it's presenting a lot of stressful challenges, but I do believe moving forward, well, not that I believe, moving forward, we will start asking them to at least give a donation, which I think, you know, that much is fair. Now, what they can and cannot do, like if they just get out there and they're broke and haven't sold anything yet, then very likely, you know, is not going to happen. But I believe if we start more regularly talking to people and let that be known, if you come there on a Sunday during those hours, it's expected of you to contribute to helping us financially hold the space. I think gradually more people will accept that as opposed to us just straight out telling them they can't come, because that will create a conflict. And that, again, is what we don't want. We don't want folks who are just showing up on Sunday, on the weekends to make some money, to now be pitted against the folks who actually live there and are saying, no, we don't accept this new structure. So again, we just need everybody to keep that in mind as we move forward, where we are sitting, trying to discern, what best out of all of these challenges placed on us, which way to navigate this forward.
Thank you, Billion. Thank you for clarifying that. Damien.
I have one more thing to say about that. I understand everything that you has said on what about the approach if we approach these vendors and ask them for a donation, and if they don't comply, would we be out of order if we say to our vendors that some of our vendors are paying and some of our vendors are not paying? And I understand all that and I accept that, not to support these vendors that come in and sell their product, and if they're not donating to the cause.
And I think that conversation, can be had amongst vendors. Again, this is where we're encouraging all of us to take on, because again, I'm just a person from the community who decided to fight for this space, fight for y'all. Jen is a sister from the community who decided to step up. So again, if more of us step up and have those conversations, I'm not against that. I mean, it makes sense. If they are going to actually come out there and make some funds and then not contribute, then let it be known we're not going to support them. But for us to take an official position on that, again, that kind of places us in a position to be targeted. And it's not so much that, being scared of being targeted, because I personally and we Africatown are being targeted by much bigger forces. So that's not the issue, but we know we're going to lose if we are constantly fighting our own. But those conversations, if you identify somebody out there and you see other folks who are patronizing them, then just let it be known they not, helping us out. Or maybe another more tactful way to combat that is suggest to somebody to get a similar product that they got and sell it for less than what they selling.
Then we're gonna lose anyway based on the way things are being done. I understand everything that everybody is saying, but you have people on a waiting list who are willing to pay. You need, I think, what, $4,000 or $5,000 a week. If you got 100 people, 100 vendors, and say a lot of people voted for $50, they pay $50. That's your $5,000 right there. Okay, of willing people to pay. And I mean, I understand everything you guys are saying, but we're going down. We're going down. If you don't wake up and do what you need to do, we're going down. If you go somewhere else and try to vend, you're not going to get past the barriers. And as far as security, what I was trying to say is, if the security is manning the cones or whatever it is, then the horses and all that shouldn't be able to get in. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not trying to be confrontational, but the writing is on the wall.
All right, sister, and I hear you, but I ask you to wake up, because I want you to really consider what you think people are going to do if you think you're going to go set up in their community and sell and make money, but at the same time deny them an opportunity to come right down the street and feed themselves and feed their children. You think they're just going to sit back and be cool with that? Again, we will have this turn into a war zone if we try to deny people who have been coming out there and need it just as bad as everybody else. We are looking at ways to create more space to bring in some of those vendors who are on the waiting list, to increase the people who are paying. But again, this is a situation that's been forced on us intentionally to get us all out of there. Again, at the end of the day, they're talking about shutting the streets down, which is going to displace everybody off of Degnan and 43rd Place. So between now and that time, if we do their work and start fighting each other, then we most definitely going to go down. But if we continue to figure out ways to navigate around this. Again, we've held up this long. A lot of people thought we were going to go down the first couple weeks, first couple months. But again, by insisting on figuring out how to do this and not dismissing everybody, because putting the cars out alone, that was a great challenge. And in that effort, we lost a lot of people. And again, there's still a lot of animosity, hard feelings based off of that. So each level we go up, we're being put into a position to go against each other. And you know, that's basically what we're saying. We can't tell people who live right there, you can no longer have access to your community because you decided to not comply with what other folks decide. I mean, just like voting. Some people vote this way, some people vote that way. But at the end of the day, if we're cutting off people's means to survive, you got to realistically look at what the consequences of that's going to be.
Right,
So,
and nobody is saying,
Billion,
nobody is saying that. No one.
Lonnie, can I interject here, please? Because this is going to be a place where there's not, I don't see that we're in a position where we're ever going to reach any majority consensus on either side of the fence. There's a lot of things that, you know, go into this conversation. But let me say this, when we started trying to get this permit process, there were a large number of people who said, we don't even have to get a permit. If they come to try to put us out, we will fight. We will fight the police. We will fight the health enforcement. We will fight. And my plea to them was, let's try to do it the permit way first, because a lot of our vendors are women. A number of our vendors bring their children out here with them. So what would it look like if the police come in here to shut us down and we have a bunch of people fighting? Yes, there are some women who would be down to fight the police. But what about those, Ashley, your sister's treat? She's out there with her baby every week. Her baby is 2 years old. I don't know that she's willing to fight the police to hold that space. And I don't think that's a decision that other people can make for all of us. So it's like, you know, we've been holding that back to this point, trying to make this permit situation work. And as Billion is saying, if we cannot make it work and they cancel the permit, then what does that look like? Because vendors are saying they will still come out there and set up. But now that it's official, the permit's canceled, and the city sends in the police or whatever other groups to push everybody out, just like they did at Avenue 26, just like they did the homeless people in Echo Park. In Echo Park, they put a fence around the people that were in the park, and then they told them, you need to leave from within this fence or you're going to jail. So we have to look at all of the different scenarios, and I think get past the point of who's not paying and who is paying. We are working on different levels to try to get a big amount of money that will cover everybody. And again, I'm LA legal assistant, I'm the compliance person, I'm the business person. I understand that. But on the opposite of that, I know when I was a single mom, if I was $100 short on my rent, I braid hair, I do weaves. So I'm going to figure out how many braids and weaves can I do this week to make sure my rent is paid. You know, so for people who are street vendors, maybe that's the same kind of idea behind it. You know, I need to make $100 to pay my rent. Let me fill up my cooler with my organic lemonades or whatever it is I'm selling out of my cooler, and let me go to Leimert Park and hustle so I can make sure I have $100 to pay my rent or to keep my gas on. Again, when I was a young single mom, I had my gas turned off for $30. $30 is nothing, but at that particular point in time, I could not even come up with $30. So I'm saying I get it from both sides. What I'm also saying is that we have the resources to make this work if we can get beyond trying to figure out what is 100% equitable, what is 100% equal. Like my dad used to always say, life is not always fair. So some of us are going to carry a little bit more of the burden to hold the entire space for everybody. And if we're not okay with that, then maybe we have to revisit what it looks like for us to be in that space. But I don't think that we can keep having the same conversation, because you cannot make people who don't want to pay, pay. You cannot make people who don't want to leave, leave. So the choice always lies with us. How are we going to respond to this? How are we going to move forward? I am not a sidewalk vendor. I have never vended a day in my life, but I put 7 days a week towards this effort because the sidewalk vendors are helping to hold the space in Levert Park from gentrification. So for me, I'm passionate and I continue to do this, even though it's actually costing me money, because I believe in the bigger picture. So if it's really difficult for everyone to get on board with holding the space, get on board with holding or seeing the bigger picture, then what are the options that you can choose for yourself? I don't know how else to say it. Before anybody else speaks, I want to call on Damien. He's had his hand up for quite a while. Can you unmute yourself?
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Brother Damien from Candy's Hidden Flavors. You know, many of you guys know me and Candy just started coming out there probably in the last 4 months. So we're very new and appreciative of the opportunity to come out there. You know, I think Billions and Gins did a great job articulating what the dilemma is between the community and the vendors. And hopefully everybody understands that. You know, to expect security to just come up and, you know, kick someone out of there. I was right next to a situation a couple of weeks ago. It was a sister that just refused to move after setting up, and, you know, the sister was fresh out. Now, ain't nobody scared, but there's no telling, you know, what the repercussions of getting aggressive with this sister might have been. And so I can understand the dilemma, man. You know, there's community politics, and then you're also dealing with the city. So again, I hope everybody really understands the position that both Jen and Billions are in trying to do this. But at the same time, I wanted to express that, you know, the community needs the vendors at the same time, and we also need the community. You know what I mean? It's not one or the other. You know, if the community is against the whole, you know, market, then, you know, that's bad business for us. And you know, vice versa. If we're not out there to try to hold that space, that's bad business for anybody else out there trying to do something, because sooner or later they're gonna get kicked out of there. So, you know, I think they're trying to come up with solutions instead of focusing on the issues. It is really the way to go. And even for some of these people that can't pay, you know, or, you know, I see people come out there and they're not really coming out there with a big, you know, with a big setup or nothing like that. And they might not make no money. Is it fair to say, hey, you guys need to pay? I don't really know the answer to that question, but I do know the more solutions we come up with collectively, it'll benefit everybody out there, and maybe some people will begin to pay. Now, you know, there's some vendors out there that have, you know, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, 20,000 followers. I think it might be a good idea to reach out to one or two of these vendors to try to come in and be a part of the village, because now you bring in potentially, you know, let's say like Koji or, you know, there's a brother out of Compton, man, that had like a huge following with like 30,000 followers. And I believe the brother ended up getting a food truck. But, you know, situations like that where these people can bring you know, possibly 100 people extra there a day just because people that crazy over their food, that's going to benefit everybody. So I just feel like focusing on the solutions, the marketing solutions, everybody trying to market, you know, each other, and get more people out there. That's going to be a problem solver for everybody, man. That's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Damian. Thank you for sharing that. And piggybacking off of what he just shared, you know, there was a time when the vendors and the marketplace helped drive traffic to the merchants. And to a certain degree, that is still true. But I'm going to say, and people can disagree with me, I'm going to say that that's not as true as it used to be, because you have stores like Soul Folks and you have Napoli Naturals, who are masters at social media, online sales, and different things like that. So if you go onto Instagram, when we get off this call, go onto Instagram, look at Napoli Naturals page. They have almost 20,000 followers. They do TikTok, and they actually did a whole interview about how TikTok changed their business. They have one of their employees who does instructional videos or demonstration videos on TikTok. Ladies, this is how you tie a head wrap. Gentlemen, this is the herb that will help you have, you know, strength and all kinds of different things like that. So they're driving their own traffic and not depending so much on the vendors to drive traffic. So we also have to be mindful of that. And like Damian is saying, we have to take advantage of each other's social media, because yes, Napoli Naturals as one merchant has 20,000 followers. But if we were to look at the number of followers that we have collectively, then we would probably have 3 times as many. And that would help us drive traffic into the village, into the marketplace on Sundays. Since the beginning, since we've started this, I've said one of the ultimate goals is to have our vendors in a position where they make money 7 days a week, whether they're physically set up or not. How many people since April, how many people have set up a website with online ordering? How many people have promoted their businesses through other alternatives besides the marketplace? You know, and I always have to be mindful of the things that I say and the way that I say them. But real talk, my thought is this: being on Degnan is not a marketing plan. What is it that you're going to do beyond setting up on Degnan to help grow your business? You know, we are in the process of setting up we set up today, not in the process, we set up today a marketplace online store where you can buy the Leimert Park Village t-shirts that we sell on Sundays at the info booth, where you can buy Africatown merchandise, where you can buy raffle tickets. We want people to buy raffle tickets and tell them, you know, come to the market on Sunday to see if you want a prize. Brenda from Studio B has donated prizes for the raffle. AM Luxury has donated prizes. Sawad has donated prizes. So then for all of the prizes that people donate, we will put a place on the website. Hey, the prizes this week are XYZ from this particular vendor. So we're looking for solutions, but we need to be met in the middle, because we can't do all of the marketing. We can't do all of the driving of the foot traffic. We can't do all of those things without help from each and every single vendor, I'm going to say, on this call, because not everybody in the marketplace is in alignment with any of this. Again, going to my personal views, the whole car arrives at the destination at the same time, no matter who's driving, no matter who's the passenger, no matter who's in the back seat. So if we are all in this vehicle called the permit and the marketplace, then we're all going to arrive together. Even those who are sitting in the back seat, not helping to drive, we're all going to get there. but we can't let the entire trip be derailed because the people in the back seat won't participate. So we're going to continue to, do all the marketing efforts that we can. We joined the Chamber of Commerce. We're on Eventbrite. We're on Nextdoor. We're on Meetup. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We've got a website for the marketplace, telling about people who, for giving information like the event calendar, about the yoga. Someone approached us, can they do self-defense classes? Someone else approached us, can they do reading and books for kids in the park? So we, specifically Africatown, I'm going to say we, but specifically Africatown is working very hard to create programming to bring people into the space. But again, they can't do it all by themselves. So we keep getting people saying we don't allow for volunteers. That's not true. We are begging for volunteers. And the reality is the volunteers that we've gotten so far have not been vendors. We've gotten college students that Miranda knows to come in and volunteer. We've gotten a couple of people from BLM to come in and volunteer. We need to be more proactive in our own success. That's the only way that I could say it. So we have another hand up. I'll call on that person, Stephen from Africatown, who's part of the programming. So we'll call on Stephen, and then after that, let's table this and then move on to the last portion so that we can talk about the structure of the Vendors Association, because that's very important. Stephen?
Hey, everybody. I hope everybody had a good day today. Just wanted to add on to what Jen had just said about volunteers and programming. I would love if there were more people interested in running programs out there, and I would love to help you get them set up. The music and entertainment seems to be going well. Bellew started with the yoga about a month and a half ago, and that's going well. If you have any young people sitting at home not doing much, maybe spending too much time playing video games or whatever, or they talk about wanting to even learn new skills. If there's some young entertainers you have or music people you have that want to come learn how to do live music, they're more than welcome to come up and learn and then be assistants in our with our setup. And it would just help me if there's more volunteers and people around that I can do more programs and help that way. But right now, my plate is kind of full with my personal life and then the things going on Sunday. So if anybody has any suggestions or family members or friends that want to come out and help, I would be joyous in that, because I need some help. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. And even tapping into that a little further, even if it's not, having someone else come out to help, in a random conversation with Mark the Barber, I noticed on his Instagram page that he plays 10 different instruments. That's huge. And I asked him, hey, can we do a concert or a programming that focuses on saxophones? Because he was playing the sax in the post. Sax is my favorite. So, and I know we have Rachel out there who plays the sax. There's another gentleman who walks through who plays the sax. I don't know his name. So in having that conversation with Mark about the saxophones, he was like, well, I'd be willing to come out and bring all of my instruments and just set up so kids can learn about the instruments and different things like that. So the point being is that if you have any skills or talents or anything like that that you would like to share, then that helps us and that helps Stephen with the programming. 2 weeks ago was a whole head wrap event, and I keep going back to head wraps, I don't know why, but 2 weeks ago there was a whole head wrap event in downtown LA. So then my thought is this: do we have a vendor out here who sells head wraps? Could we give that person an hour on the stage or 30 minutes, whatever it would take, so they could do a demonstration on how to tie head wraps? We have a bunch of CMOS vendors out there. If you follow Amara Swell CMOS on Instagram, she's constantly showing how she washes the CMOS. She's constantly talking about how many minerals are in CMOS. She's constantly talking about, when I make my CMOS, I mix it with chlorophyll, because not only do you get these 92 minerals, then you get all of these extra benefits of having the chlorophyll. So that's an educational thing. People will want to stop and listen and hear that. What's your product? Waist beads. You know, what's the cultural significance of waist beads? Where did it start? What do the different colors mean? Does it mean something when you wear a certain number of waist beads? There are people who want to know things like that. So again, not just depending on Stephen to put together a whole program of entertainment, but how do we step up? How do we collaborate? And how do we help make this successful? Excuse me. Nakia is on. Before we switch over to the structure of the Vendors Association, I'd like to ask her to jump in and give some comments. We're having a conversation earlier and she had some good information to share.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hello. I just want to go ahead and, reiterate that, what's fair for the community may not look like what's fair for an individual. So, and that's in family all the time. Everybody doing their part may not look the same. And I hope we can get past that and move into some proactive solutions. And then also I was at Prosperity Market. I think this is what Jen is referring to. I did their market, and we need to not have everybody selling some of the same things. They asked me to be a part of the market, but they already had someone there doing peach cobbler. Peach cobbler is one of my top selling products. So I went ahead and I sold everything, but because we don't want everybody selling the same thing. So as we let in vendors that are coming in, we are going to be going through selectively and making sure that they're not selling some of the same things that you guys are selling, because we don't want just to, have too much of the same thing. And then that makes a problem for you making your money. So we want to look at it as what's best for the community, how everybody can be more productive. Was there something else that you wanted me to refer to, Jen?
Oh, just mentioning so with Prosperity Market, what they do is they do like 3 days promotion. One of those days is online pre-sales. So Nakia was sharing with me that by the time the market came around, she had already made money because of the pre-sale. So when she arrived at the market, all she had to do was fulfill the orders for pre-sales. Okay.
And then also with that, I also do a market in Altadena where they have pre-selling, and I just drop off the stuff to that market. So, so with Prosperity and also with Altadena, if we take a proactive approach to running our business and making sure that we're posting. I've gone on some people's page and they're out there selling, but they haven't even posted not once. And so, as Jen was saying, that can't be your business model. That can't be your business model. So like when I got to Prosperity, I had already made $80 before I even started to sell on that Saturday. So I had $80 worth of sales, and then I sold that day and made some money. And then also with me just walking around, some of you guys are on your phones. You're not taking a proactive approach to your business. And that's just me being honest. When I'm doing a market, people are not just walking past me because I came there to make my money. And when I walk around, some of you are not taking a proactive approach to the people that are there. And that may be some of the reason that you're not making money. So if we need to put some classes together or do something in order to to help our businesses grow, we are willing to do that, but we will need volunteers and people to participate and to show up.
That's the important part, is getting people to show up. Thank you, Nakia. The online pre-orders and pre-sales, I want to keep focusing on that, because that's kind of the mindset that a lot of people have nowadays, especially in this time of COVID and vaccine versus no vaccine and all of those different things. And then also that's just always been my thing. If I can order something and have it delivered to my house as opposed to shopping for it, I will do that. If I can order something and drive up to the Target sign that says, tell me you're at pickup stall number 2, I'm pressing number 2 every time, because I don't necessarily want to go into the store. So we're in an age of Amazon, and everything is, deliverable and orderable online. So some of us will have to adjust our thing on that and our mindset, and figure out, how do we do online sales? It's not expensive. The website that we started for the market today, a whole year of service for the website, I paid $144. So if we do this website correctly, we will make back that $144 in no time. It's worth the investment. So switching away from the marketing again, tabling that conversation. And then maybe that's another thing that we can do, is we have one meeting a week, and the meeting tends to go on. We're on for almost 2 hours right now. Maybe we can break this down into 2 meetings. One meeting is about debriefing, and the other one might be about marketing plan or strategies or different things like that. So that's a conversation that we can have. Before I move on, Monique has her hand up. Monique?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Sometimes I drive if I do Uber Eats, but I've also noticed that now we're picking up for like AutoZone. And then I think even a few times I picked up for a couple of clothing vendors and dropped everything off. So I don't know how you would have to go about registering with Uber in order to get your merch picked up and dropped off and delivered, but it's happening. So that's another avenue that everyone can consider.
Thank you for that, Monique. And I'm making notes right now, because there are actually classes online, like free YouTube classes, how to sell online, how to get registered with DoorDash and Uber Eats, and all of those different things. So we'll look into finding out what those resources are, and then we'll share those resources for people who are interested. So thank you for mentioning that and bringing that up. The last part of the meeting, I'd like to talk about the structure of the Vendors Association. So right now, the way that the marketplace is set up is that there are 3 organizations involved. There's LA Legal Assistant, which is me. There's Africa Town, and then there's the Vendors Association, the Leimert Park Village Vendors Association. The reason that it's set up like that is because we started working to form the Vendors Association as a complete nonprofit membership organization. And if you look at the dates on this, we started this back in January. So if you remember, the city started pressing the issue about street vending and sending enforcement out back in November, December of last year. So then when that happened, we did not have any clue that the farmer's market permit and all of that situation was on the radar. So we simply started trying to form a vendors association. And you can see from the dates on here, all of these documents were filed back in January. So we did the articles of incorporation. We got an EIN number. we got a tax registration certificate, we got a seller's permit, and the final step to finish the organization was to get the tax exempt status from the IRS. The fee for the IRS is $600. So while we were waiting to figure out, where do we get this $600 from, then all of a sudden we started getting this pushback from the city and the Leimert Park Village stakeholders and all of these others about, the street closure. So then we started looking into applying for the street closure permit, and the only permit they were giving at the time, they being the city, was a farmer's market permit. In order to apply for and receive a farmer's market permit, you have to be a farmer, you have to be a government agency, or you have to be a nonprofit with your nonprofit status already approved. So in January, going into March of 2021, LA Legal Assistant already had their 501c3. The Vendors Association did not have it because as I just explained, we were waiting to figure out how we're going to get this $600 for the IRS. So the reason that LA Legal Assistant is the organizer, my battery's low. The reason that LA Legal Assistant is the organizer of the African Marketplace is simply because we had our 501c3 already in place. Africa Town's 501c3 wasn't still in progress, and we had not yet applied for the it's not even a 501c3, it's a different tax exemption, but we had not yet applied for the tax exemption for the Vendors Association. So over the course of the past few months, because we've been so tied up and involved in making the marketplace work, getting all of the permits, and let me share that we did not just have to get one permit. We've gotten a total of 6, maybe 7 permits. We had to get a permit from the Department of Agriculture. We had to get a permit from LA Fire Department. We had to get 2 permits from the Health Department. We had to get a permit from the Bureau of Street Services. And then we had to apply for a permit to accept EBT and WIC. We're still waiting for the approval on that. But anytime you have a farmer's market that is on a city street, you have to accept EBT and WIC. So that's a total of 6 permits that we've applied for to keep this market going. So because we got caught up in all of that, finishing the structure of the Vendors Association got pushed to the side. So where we are now with the Vendors Association is that Brenda from Studio B Designs and Onyx from Like a Stone Jewelry, I think I'm saying that correctly, they have volunteered to step up and to work together to, number one, get a committee of vendors who want to work with them on this, but they are going to do the steps needed to finish up getting the Vendors Association up and running and completely in compliance. Part of that is going to be raising the $600 to pay the IRS fee. And then once the IRS fee is paid, then there's the thing of establishing bylaws and boards of directors and different things like that. Someone just put in the chat, can we donate? Yes, please. However, whatever we need to do to raise this $600. It's important that even though we have all of the permits now under LA Legal Assistant, is that in the future, the permit will need to be renewed. So what it looks like as far as how it's to be renewed and who holds the permit in the future, we don't know. But we would like for Leimert Park Village Vendors Association to be all set up and compliant so that if that is where it needs to be and that is who needs to apply for the permit, then that they'll be ready to apply for the permit. So again, we've been trying to structure this, the Vendors Association way before the farmer's market permit, and all of that came into play. So now we need to finish it. So again, it'll be Brenda from Studio B Designs and Onyx from Like a Stone Jewelry. I don't know if they're both on the call or if either is on the call, but Brenda and Onyx, if you're on the call, can you please put your contact information into the chat box so that anybody who's interested in being on the committee or helping you guys to complete these steps, they can be involved in the process. Do we have any questions regarding the Vendors Association and or the completion of the structure? RJ, you okay? Okay, so we don't have any questions or comments. At this point, it's 9:20. Billion, do you have any comments that you would like to insert here?
Yeah. Greetings, everyone. First, I do want to thank our sister Brenda for stepping up yesterday. We did have a extensive conversation finally, and I do believe this week myself and Jen will get to talk to her, and she's really anxious to help us move a lot of things forward. And I think even some of the things we've been discussing tonight will further advance things, because again, where Jen and myself have been making a lot of the decisions, with input from Kevin, Nakia, Sister Marcel, and just a few others. This will help it become more of a democratic or communal process. And that way it won't be where folks are saying, myself or Jen is just trying to dictate all of this to everyone. So please, if Brenda is still on the call and left her information, go ahead and catch up with her. Also, I want to thank our sister Marcel from Island Spice Teens. Yesterday, she helped us with our Breaking Bread Mutual Aid Food Program. We have been talking to a few food vendors about helping us do this, because what we have been doing, we have been going to different Black restaurants in the past, but because our time is really consumed with being at the market all day, we just been 1 week going to Pizza Hut, 1 week going to El Pollo Loco. But any food vendors who can feed between 20 to 30 people with $100 budget, again, that's pretty much all we have weekly, unless we get other donations. But if you could feed between 20 to 30 people, we would prefer to give vendors in the market that money, just to keep those Black dollars recycling within our own. But again, we want to thank Sister Marcel and her mom for stepping up, allowing us to make that happen. Sister Miranda is working on a vendor information form. Now with this form, we are going to be asking some personal financial information, but there will be an option to where you don't have to give up your exact name or anything that you don't feel secure sharing. But what we want to do is we want to start collecting how many people are actually making a profit on Sundays, how many people who are out there are homeless, how many people who are out there are living in hotels, how many people who are out there are paying over half of the money that you make every month, between half to 70% of your money on your rent, on your mortgage, and other financial information. Because what this allows us to do is present a better perspective of what's going on out there and the actual need. Because again, if they try to put these compliances on us and demanding that we pay certain things, but again, knowing that we are at a disadvantage, a financial disadvantage, as we have been, it again puts us, in a hole, trying to keep up with what folks in Santa Monica can do or what folks in Culver City can do. So this will also help us as we apply for grants and do other things. And even as we fight against some of these ordinances and other things they are putting in motion, but to really show the need that is happening out there in Africa Town. Also, we have been through Council District 8, through Marquise Harris Dawson office, we have been in communication with Destination Crenshaw. Destination Crenshaw is going to be an outdoor museum, they say, to complement the Crenshaw Metro Rail once it gets running, but I believe it's going to have 6 different locations, and that's from, I think, from 65th, pretty much where the train comes out on Crenshaw, I think around 65th Street, all the way down to the Expo line. But one of the main stops is going to be right next to, right across the street on Vernon and Lemert Boulevard, right there behind El Pollo Local, where you see the construction set up. But along each of these 6 stops, they are talking about having vending available. So they have reached out to us to look at possibly helping them select the vending. And the process that we are going to go by is, first and foremost, using vendors who are part of the association, vendors who are in the actual marketplace, and vendors who are paying. So that will be some of our initial criteria for selecting folks. But again, we want to open this process up to everybody who gets involved. So again, these committees that Brenda and Onyx help us form will be involved in helping us put forward that process to select possibly how many vendors are at each location and which vendors are at those locations. In the next few weeks, we will be in fall, and those of you who have been coming out to Africatown for a while know during the fall, we usually have a fall off as far as foot traffic is concerned. So that is something we have been already taking into consideration as far as programming, as far as marketing, as far as getting people out there. You know, as kids go back to school, a lot of parents have less time to come out and you know, enjoy themselves on the weekends. A lot of the tourism falls off as people are, you know, going back to school. A lot of kids go off to college. And then, of course, it starts getting darker earlier, and then the weather starts changing up. You know, we get more wind, more rain, and different things like that. So before you know, within the next month or so, it'll be dark around 5, and 5 is usually the time when we start people who do not want to be out there after the permit, we start shutting down. But now where we have light and you know, we can shut down more openly as it gets darker. And again, by that point in time, whether or not we'll even be on Degnan, we don't know. Again, moving forward with the council office, that is going to be one of our primary issues. But we are taking all these things into consideration, because over the next few weeks, that is going to be an issue. The issue of programming came up. And for the past few weeks, I've really been trying to emphasize to people, don't just wait for the primary programming on the stage that Stephen coordinates. Then in your individual booths, programming can help a whole lot. I briefly shared yesterday before we finished the morning meeting that a lot more folks are now showing interest in a fashion show. You can have a mini fashion show right at your booth whenever you choose. And that wouldn't stop you from being able to participate in the bigger fashion shows as we get to it. I was sharing yesterday, we have set that there will be particular programming each week. Like the first week of each month, there will be, and this is not the actual, I'm just throwing this out there as a prototype for what we set up, but say 1 week is live performances, 1 week is poetry. 1 week, we do want to have those of you who make jewelry, soaps, incense, other products like that come out and demonstrate how you make your products and explain, you know, why you use the type of ingredients you use in your soaps, but things of that nature. But that is the prime programming that we're speaking of. But again, having a domino contest in your booth will draw people out. You know, you do things both for entertainment, but you also do things to involve more people. Having I forget the card games, but a spades contest. You know, I'll come and I'll whoop all of y'all at your booth, but you know, we can bring more people out to your booth with programming like that. So also consider that as we move forward. This Friday, there will be a number of laws that start to go into effect. The primary one is Ordinance 41.18, and this they have been selling it as a means to help get homeless people off the streets, but we really know after reading it and of course seeing the characters behind it, that is going to further criminalize homeless folks. But when you read it, it also gives them space to come after people that are set up on the sidewalks vending. So this is something we're going to monitor. And again, this goes in effect this Friday. The next few coming weeks, they are starting to lock down on stores as far as forcing them to demand customers have vaccine cards. Now, this can have an effect on the market in a few different ways. One, it can open up possibilities and potential for people to start selling these products out there at the market. You know, if they, I don't know for sure if they're going to lock down on drugstores as far as forcing people to show vaccine cards, but just say that was one particular business, then people who are not selling as much of whatever it is they're selling on Sundays, they can start incorporating whatever the drugstores are selling, toothpaste, aspirin, whatever else, to you know, pick up that customer base that will no longer be going inside the grocery stores. And just lastly, in closing, I am going to have a live. I thought I would have it today after the meeting, but because it went as long as it did tonight, I'll probably postpone until tomorrow. But we are looking at further educating the community, because just like the issue came up tonight, we've been forced into a position to where folks who come for business have issues that are conflicting with folks who are there for community. So part of that is educating everyone and seeing historically how tactics like this have been used to conquer all of us, but also to more so educate folks on the games that are being played by the council office right now. We are looking at possibly holding an action at his office this week. So hopefully some of y'all will be able to tap into that live. Possibly tomorrow we'll do it, but we're also looking at setting up a Zoom town hall that we will allow those of you who are in the association, the marketplace, people who are involved will have access to the actual Zoom, but then the Zoom will be broadcasted on live for a larger audience. But again, right now, that is the main thing that we all need, is this more intensive education on what's happening. Because again, a lot of times we're forced into a situation where we look at our immediate individual need to react to it, but not understanding the people who plan to put that out there already predicted us to do that, knowing we would collide with each other. So that's pretty much all I have to put out there. Any questions, comments concerning anything I just shared? All right, I didn't feel like answering any questions anyway, but that's all I got.
I just want to say I'm gonna be the first one to whoop your ass on that card table.
Stop it. Stop it. I'm saying, take all your money. Okay. You're gonna be playing for soap.
Nice. Listen, I just wanted to say real quick, this is Onyx, that Brenda and I are going to meet offline to talk about the committees, Billion, but is there anybody else that you think that we should pull in, because we don't want to spin our wheels if something's already been formulated? We just want to add to it.
I know Sister Marcelle, she's really been organizing the food vendors, so y'all possibly want to pull her in, but Sister Nadia has also been stepping up big time, and Brother Damien has been stepping up big time, so maybe the three of them.
I don't know Damien.
He's with Candy's Flavors. Excuse me, brother, I forgot the exact name.
Candy's Hidden Flavors.
Candy's Hidden Flavors, yeah. So Brother Damien, Sister Nadia, and Sister Marcelle would probably be great to include in those conversations.
All right, good enough. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. So before we sign off, next weekend, or this coming weekend, I always get that wrong, but this weekend, Sunday, September 5th, we're into Labor Day weekend. So there was going to be the annual Heritage Festival. It was being headed up by Queen Amina, but unfortunately she became ill, so that never took off. So there's not a specific festival this weekend, but on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Utopia, which is usually on Saturday evenings, Utopia is going to be happening from 12 noon until 9 in the evening each day of the 3-day weekend. So Utopia draws a big crowd. Hopefully that translates to more foot traffic for us this weekend, more sales for us this weekend. I think it should be a win. We saw a little more traffic this past weekend with the Soul Folks anniversary special. And it just, indicates to us how programming really brings people in. So, let's benefit from Utopia this weekend. And then moving forward, let's figure out how we can do our own programming to bring in the big crowds. And then on another note, we're talking about, all of the potential negative benefit or negative things that can happen to the marketplace. But just FYI, when the buildings went up for sale, especially the building where Hot and Cool is, a lot of people were predicting, what will happen if that building is sold to the wrong people. All of the merchants who have stores in that building, from Hot and Cool down to Soul Folks, they got together, don't know how they did it, don't know what their plan is, but they submitted an offer on that building. So even if we're not best friends with the merchants, even if we've had disagreements or whatever the case may be, let's, raise up prayers that they get that building, because how awesome would that be for that building to be Black owned by people who actually have a stake in the ownership of that building, because they're already there. So that is all I have for this evening. Thank you everyone for tuning in for 2 hours and 7 minutes. Thank you for your contributions. Again, my phone number is 213-277-8880. Please call me if you have questions, concerns, ideas, anything that you think we should talk about. We're here to listen. That's all.
And can I just put this to everyone? As a lot of you do see the issues and you're bringing it to us, again, try to see if you could also bring the solution to the things you see happening out there. Another thing I want to point out about Sister Onyx and even Sister Amina is, as we come on Sundays and we have the trash issue, they both step up to help resolve that, as opposed to just complaining about it. Sister Amina, she brings her 2 sons every week, and every week, she volunteers to have them help us take care of it. So again, with 30-some people on this call, if 30-some people are collectively thinking about how to resolve our issues, it's gonna be nothing. We'll move forward expeditiously and effectively. But if the majority continues to expect the few to do it, then it's gonna be a bumpy ride. But either way, we're gonna work it out.
All right, with that, we'll close. Thank you everyone again for being here, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, Jean.
Have a good night,
Bye,
everyone.
girl. We'll talk tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Night. Head to poo.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Lonnie.